Coming to you live with the insight you need from the financials and political capitals of the world to the heart of innovation. This is Opportunities to Consider with your host, author, speaker, and corporate strategist, Hunter Gaylor.
Well, hello. Thank you again and welcome to Markets Hunter. I am your host, Hunter Gaylor, coming to you live today from actually sunny South Florida, the Wall Street of the South, the state that has a lot of big cattle, actually. Most people don't realize that. It's a very large cattle state. For another CEO Talk, we live stream weekly on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all the social media networks, just to name a few. Make sure you like and subscribe across all of our networks so you can stay up to date with the conversations that matter from the companies that matter. And so today, I have the pleasure of being joined by John, who's the CEO and President and Director of Petvivo Holdings, Inc. John, thank you so much for joining me. Petvivo, just to lay it out for our audience, is a biomedical device company currently focused on the manufacturing, commercialization, and licensing of innovative medical devices and therapeutics for companion animals. Their stock symbol is PETV. We have it in, we will put it at the bottom of the screen here for you. John, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hunter, thanks for having me.
So, John, we're going to dive into it. Everybody knows when they watch the Markets Hunter show, we like to just jump right in. You launched Spring, which is a product that you have at the end of 2021, just as the pandemic was coming to an end. So it was obviously a tumultuous time for a lot of companies trying to figure out their direction. How did getting the MWI, which is a division of it's AmerisourceBergen, to the market in October of 2022, how did that change your outlook, John?
So basically, instead of building that internal sales team to that volume, it would have taken us probably 3.5 years to get a reasonable number in adoption. So it sped up the process of helping communicate to the vet community how disruptive and unique Spring with the osteo cushion is. The relationship is quite strong. It's exclusive distribution. They have to meet certain minimums every year to maintain it for 3 years. We're very comfortable that they'll meet those or exceed those requirements.
So, but the relationship being exclusive, that really makes you almost a leader in this space to be able to get to market even faster, correct?
Yeah, so MWI is the leader in the space. They do $5 billion a year in the US in veterinary sales. Now, within the last 60 days, they became the largest distributor in Europe as well as the Middle East. They bought out their competition in that space. So they're the number one players. So we have a very good avenue to expand our distribution channels, but there's plenty to do here in the United States. And if you think about how large MWI is, they have 400 territorial managers, over 300 in-house salespeople. So we have focused on bringing in very seasoned salespeople on our side to be business development regional sales managers to work with the MWI sales force. And if you look at the public filings and so on we have done, every business director of marketing or development has at least 25 years experience in veterinary sales where they're managing a large team of salespeople, and they're coming from the who's who of the industry. Paula came from Zoetis on the West Coast, the number one player in the veterinary space. Rachel came from Covetrus. They're probably the number 4 player. Cliff Smith came from Merck Animal Health. These people have multiple years of managing sales teams. So that's what our function is right now, is to be support and management of the MWI sales team. We're providing them the relevant information for them to educate their client base. And 90% of the vets in the United States have accounts with MWI.
Well, that speaks to the testament of your leadership as CEO and the direction you're taking the company. And it's great that you have that because, this leads into my next question. There's about 14 million horses, according to the statistics in the U.S., and about 30% of those horses are race horses and show horses. And I assume show encompasses jumping and things like that, the equestrian side. And the rest are that the kind of the pet or the workers. Do you think that the horse pet owner, based on this massive sales team that you're building, they would pay $600 a year to see some of these, older horses or horses with, some of these issues gallop like a younger horse, a younger version of the horse?
So the $600 is a general number for a typical joint because it varies in regions of what the vet charges. So if you're in San Francisco, it's going to be a lot more expensive than if you're in Biloxi, Mississippi, getting the same injection. Secondarily, our product is covered under pet insurance because it's classified at the human side of the FDA as human medical device. And on the veterinary side, it's considered a veterinary medical device. And that's covered under pet insurance. So there is a lot of good tailwind for us as the adoption of pet insurance becomes more common in the marketplace. So yes, it's definitely the dollar amount. People see value. And I can give you a typical example. We have done multiple race horses at different tracks. And what the trainers tell me is that when they inject with Spring instead of using hydrochloric acid or any of the other products out there, it's typically once a year that the injection is good for, but we're seeing it last beyond a year. But obviously, when you're dealing with performance horses, it just depends on how much they race. They may need it twice a year. But the recovery time between races on a horse, standard is about 3 weeks before they start training for the next race. With Spring in the areas where they're having problems, they're able to start training within 3 days. So the horse can be entered into more races. Secondarily, there's not the need for other pharmaceutical products. Pharmaceuticals are very oriented towards symptoms versus the actual problem. Ours is really addressing the bone-on-bone contact or the loss of cartilage and so on in that area. These particles, they're naturally derived, and the base protein is collagen and elastin, and the carbohydrate is heparin. These are building blocks of cartilage in mammals. So when we inject that in, the uniqueness of these particles is it stays wet and lubricious, and they seek out the area where cartilage used to be, and it augments and it protects the existing cartilage. So it functions just like cartilage, and the joint stays lubricated because movement of the horse actually lubricates and prevents inflammation and so on that's occurring. So they're seeing a lot of benefits beyond just improving the joint function. They're seeing much lower costs. They don't have to tap the joints of the horses for draining fluid because when you get inflammation, there's fluid buildup. So they're seeing a much better, healthier horse and a horse that's not injuring themselves.
So, John, if it's working so well for the horses, obviously this has a much wider range of application, dogs and cats, household. I have a cat, I grew up with dogs. They lived a long time. And if we could have gotten more years out of it, we would have loved to. Can you talk about the application in cats and dogs? Just because, we're looking at there's 64 million dogs in the US, 20% of 1-year-olds and 40% of older dogs have osteoarthritis. And it's about the same number in cats that the studies are showing. Are you expecting the same types of results in cats and dogs?
So we have probably injected over 2,000 dogs and horses. So we got a very good case study basis of the efficacy and how well the product works.
Right.
So if we look at the canine market, there's a wide range of treatments. And so there's an educational aspect to the veterinary doctors, because right now, when they do a diagnosis of osteoarthritis, it's what they call a multimodal approach to treating it for the life of the dog. So you're probably giving NSAIDs every day. You're probably adding on later on steroids and injections, cortisone and stuff like that. But all that is focused on masking the symptom. So if you're using NSAIDs for a long period of time, you're going to have gastrointestinal tract bleeding, liver and kidney problems, as well as when you're masking the pain, the dog will run and jump in situations they shouldn't, and they actually end up tearing or damaging the existing cartilage much quicker. Our product is unique in the sense, once it's injected, it allows the vet typically to eliminate the need of NSAIDs or other pharmaceuticals, which has side effects. Our product has zero side effects, and that was proved out in our human clinicals on the human side when we used these particles in a clinical test. And that's how we got the designation on the human side as a medical device. And because of
Oh,
that,
wow.
automatically, we didn't have to do any studies for the FDA on the animal side. And that's a
Oh, that's
positive and a
incredible.
negative, because the negative is I don't have data to show to the veterinary side that this stuff works. So that's why we commissioned all these studies that we got coming up. So the market potential is quite large. You're looking at about 4.8 billion, growing at 7.4% a year, pretty recession proof. Now, I would argue the TAM is actually expanded. So if you look at the case of an older dog, which 80% of all dogs hitting age 8 will have some form of osteoarthritis.
Okay.
In a very severe case, you go into the vet will tell you, this dog's going to need a $6,000 to $7,000 surgery because it's suffering so much. The other option is to spend a couple $100 and put the dog down. Now there's nothing in between. So we're providing an opportunity of a product that we're telling you that if you do the injection between 6 and 800, let's use that number, that the dog should get at least 1 year of quality of life improvement. The dog will be able to run, they'll be able to, do many of the things that it's currently not being able to do. I think the majority of people would spend that money. And if you look at the data that supports that, the analytics, in 2012, a typical consumer would spend $1,700 on a dog before they would stop treatment.
Oh,
In
wow.
2020, it was $10,700.
Wow.
So you can see the general trends, the macro trends are all in our favor. Less and less people are getting married, less and less people are having children. Their pets become their children. And because of that, they're willing to spend whatever it's necessary to improve the quality of life of these animals. It's the humanization. And with COVID, house ownership in the United States jumped from 68% to a slightly over 70%. And there's been a misnomer that people are giving their dogs and cats back. They are not. That is absolutely not true.
Wow.
That was confirmed by a study that was done by Zoeta, showing that the consumers are still keeping their animals. Now, with the slowdown in the economy, they are stepping down from the high-end premium foods to a lower medium grade
Sure.
food. They're not buying the food out of the refrigerator, which is more than a T-bone steak that
Right.
a human would be buying. They're
Right.
buying the
Right.
more standard, good quality food.
Right. John, from the markets hunter perspective, right, and the CEO talk, I mean, would you be disappointed if in, say, 2 years you didn't capture at least 1 million of the 20 million dogs with osteoarthritis?
Well, we're at a point where we don't give guidance, but if you think about the cost advantage of our product being covered by insurance, there's a lot of dogs out there with joint afflictions and other issues that I feel we're going to capture our fair share of the market.
Yeah, I would be, just personally, I would be highly disappointed if that, given everything that you've said, that you would be well over, that number. So I'm
Yeah.
personally rooting for you, as an animal owner.
Well, thank
And
you. And I
they
think,
are. I mean, when you look at
yep,
the market, and uh, this alone, when I look at the numbers, and we we do an analysis on this, I mean, this alone could be over 100 million in sales with at least 50% margins is what we're looking at from an analyst perspective. So I think there's obviously there's a big market here. So I am rooting for you.
Thank you.
And
we definitely have operating leverage. I've always said when we scale the production, we'll have north of 70% gross profit margin. And if you look at the people we've been hiring, they're really high caliber people that are coming from the major players. There's a reason they're leaving a job after 25, 30 years at one of the top companies in the space to come over with us. And many of them believe we're quite disruptive and innovative in our product pipeline to beyond spring. So
the choice with the senior leadership, we look at the fundamentals of the company, we look at the share price, the choice of putting down a lame dog for a surgery, instead of paying $6,000 for a surgery, $600, I would do it in a heartbeat, right? So I'm a consumer, I'm validating that to you. But let's dive into the numbers a little bit, John, right? Because, as CEO, this is a
Should
CEO
I follow
talk.
up on the cat market a little bit? Because cat study will be done.
Okay,
because that cat study will be done in August, September of this year.
Okay.
Now, if we look at what Zoetis is saying, Zoetis has a monoclonal antibody that they're launching in the United States for dogs and horses. No, excuse me, dogs and cats. And they believe that will eventually lead to about 480 million a year in sales. Now, their product works, but it requires a lot of compliance by the consumer to take the dog back to the veterinary doctor or the cat back to the veterinary doctor, or they have to do an injection every month for the life of the animal.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, and it's about $150 per injection. So we feel we have a competitive advantage from that standpoint. Also, Zoetis is doing something that's really good for the industry. They're teaching vets, and they're spending a lot of money, how to diagnose osteoarthritis in cats, because cats are a unique animal. So when they get osteoarthritis, they just tend to sleep more. And the typical person thinks, oh, my cat's just getting older. They're not as energetic. Actually, if you fix the problem or if you give it relief, the cat will be energetic and playing again. And in our studies, it's kind of funny because right now we actually have some vets that have injected cats on their own. And the owners are sending us videos, and the cats are pretty cute because they kind of shave them to do the injection. So you can see the shaved spot in the shoulder, but the cats are playing and they're happy like crazy. So it makes there's a really good feeling from that standpoint. And we believe, because right now Zoetis is spending the money to educate the vets, our timing of our product coming to market with the catalyst of the study being published will be a revenue driver, and it also provides the data that's both for the canines and the felines for the MWI reps to point to drive sales.
John, what is the time that study will be done for our audience?
So we're looking at August, September, and then probably published by the end of the year, and that will help drive the sales for the catalyst. And keep in mind, these are not FDA regulatory studies. These are purely for marketing purposes, because we don't have FDA risk. So if you look at most medical companies, device companies, the number one risk is FDA. We greatly reduce that. The second risk is, can a company scale the product and make money at it? We have a management team in production that has done it on the human side. They were at Medtronic, Schultz Diabetes. They know how to make this biomaterial. And keep in mind, it's just the bottleneck is just syringe fulfillment. You can do robotics at that at a certain time if you really needed to scale. And you would even increase the gross profit margin north of 70%.
So when you look at it from an educational perspective, John, my question to you is as a pet owner, or these pet owners that may be watching this through our social media channels, and some of the these pet influencers out there, what should they be telling their their veterinarians? What should they be asking? How do they say, look, my dog isn't running the way it used to be. It's got this. Are a lot of the vets aware? Obviously, you have a big sales team out there.
Yep.
But what about I understand it from a business to business perspective. What about from a consumer to the business perspective? What do I say?
Sure.
Our audience say to request something like this?
So when they notice, the functionability of the dog or horse and so on, and because horses, they're so geared towards performance, they actually know pretty quick. The thing they need to do is bring up to their vet, hey, I've been noticing this limp my dog's been having. And the vets actually can look at a dog and know that there's a joint issue, but they use the x-rays to confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to get a lot of information, going to springhealth.com, which is the name of the product, they would be able to see a lot of instructional videos on the injections, as well as reasons why a vet would use for certain conditions. Right now, we have it just for horses because we have published that out there for horses, so the vet can point to it. And Dr. Tracy Turner does these videos for a 16-part video. He's the president of the American Association of Equine Practitioners. He was at the last 8 U.S. Olympic equestrian team as a doctor on that, and he's also with Pan Am Games. So he's very well respected in the equine community. And we have a similar person like that has done the videos, but we're waiting for the study for the dog side, which we expect to get published. We completed the study October of 2022. We have not seen the data, but we feel the data is pretty good from the standpoint of what we've seen in the real world, plus the fact that, and this is public information now, that it's going to get published in Veterinary Orthopedic Society, the Veterinary Orthopedic Society Journal, which is very prestigious, and that's the second week of March, that the clinician from Ethos will be presenting, as well as getting the paper published. And I don't think they would have let them present if the data was really bad, because it is a prestigious organization.
John, my question is, when you look at the market, and we are playing for our audience a video, I encourage them to go look at it, because when I saw this video and our team was looking at it, it really showed a noticeable increase in the doctor's dog, right? It was really limping. It couldn't do anything. It got the shot of the spring product. And I mean, it looked like a different dog, right? And it was really incredible. If we dive into the numbers here real quick, if you did, and I don't want to get into any forward-looking statements of what you can or cannot think that you're going to earn, but for hypothetical conversation, if you did 100 million at some point over the next couple of years, given the size of your sales force and the professionals that you're bringing in that dominate the market, what kind of earnings do you expect that to go along? I mean, you have 11 million outstanding shares. It seems to me like this could easily be, 450. A share in the next, coming years. Would I be correct in saying that?
I think I stated that a gross profit margin will be north of 70%. So it's just a function of how many more studies are we doing for the other products in our pipeline. But all that becomes accretive.
Sure. No, and I think that that's really good for the audience to realize, is that the operating margins that you're dealing with now, you're actually increasing that profit margin by making very smart executive decisions. So I think that, the growth, and when we look at the fundamentals, it all comes down to management, leadership, time to market, and then obviously the ease of customer onboarding, which is why I asked the question, John, as a pet owner, how do I tell my vet, hey, have you even heard of this product yet? Because I found it and this is incredible. And so I think that's a really good way of marketing it as well.
So we're unique in the sense that we have operating leverage. So the product is made in the United States. All of the sourcing of the materials, it's probably just the Midwest, but it is the United States.
Sure.
So it's really easy to get. Variation in pricing is very low. So as we improve our manufacturing processes, as we add automation, it only adds to the increase of margins for us.
Well, and I was going to get to that. When you look at the price, we always look at it from an affordability perspective. $600 versus $6,000 is, I mean, it's a no-brainer in this case. I mean, if it's a simple shot and it changes the life of, in my happiness with my bond that I have with my animal, I mean, I think that's a real game changer that you have. What kind of announcements outside of the March studies that you have coming out with the feline studies should we be looking for, say, over the next 2 quarters for PetVivo?
Well, we have publicly stated, I think, on our website, multiple studies. So within the next 6 months, I think we may have 4 studies getting published. So that is really meaningful. And then also, starting this last January, mid-January, the major trade shows are all going on. So our people are constantly busy at these trade shows. Now, the interesting variable we have seen since MWI has become our distributor is the traffic to our booth. Because MWI is spending a lot of effort right before the show. They identify their key clients that are going to the show. Well, not just their key clients, all their clients that are going to the show. And they're blasting them with emails and telling them to look at this product. It's unique, and here are the reasons why. And to give you an example, the VMX show in Orlando, probably 3 weeks ago, we usually get about a few hundred people come visit our booth. We had 2,700 veterinary doctors as well as vet techs come visit our booth. And one of the principal drivers was MWI, sending them information on spring and definitely come visit and ask our internal vet and our salespeople about the product. Secondarily, at quite a few of the seminars and presentations by vets that we didn't even know they were going to be doing this, they talked about the success they were having in trying the spring product, and they encouraged those vets to come visit us. Our people were so flooded, and we only had 1 scanner for the badges, because when the veterinary badges come in, you scan.
Right.
They were trying to find extra scanners, and obviously it caught everybody off guard. We ran out of print material on the first day. So we had to tell vets, scan it onto your phone, because we always provide that scan. They can get all the material. But,
well, that's a testament to the growth and the awareness, the market
we're seeing
awareness.
The brand recognition because of MWI helping us spread the word because of their built-in customer base. So that's only going to happen quicker as we get more of the small animal studies. Because right now, 90-95% of our sales are in the equine space. We're into 48 states, and just anecdotal data of how this thing is growing. Virginia, prior to MWI, we probably had 3 or 4 equine vets using our product.
Sure.
The other day, I had a horse owner with multiple horses say, "Hey, John, we know each other for a while. Is there a vet close to me?" I pulled up the list. We had like 22 vet clinics using our product within the last, couple of months. And the order flow, if you follow the flow, it's generally they order 2 syringes to try. And then the next order is probably 2-3 weeks later, they'll order 6. Within 6 months, we're seeing the orders going up to 40-45 syringes per month, which is quite good. And the adoption rate, you never get 100%, okay? But we're getting very good adoption rates. It's probably 90% adoption rates. So the key is to get the product out, get the vet to try it. It's night and day to them after they try the product, and they'll want to switch. They'll want to tell their consumers, and we're pushing a lot of social media now, targeting the consumers to ask their vet about the product.
John, what do you recommend for people where they can go get information that they can go provide to their vets, or not just information on the company, but for the consumers at home Is it spring.com? What's that information? And we'll make sure we put it in the
So,
links in
so
the video.
petvivo.com is good. It will lead you into springhealth.com. Springhealth.com is more geared towards veterinary doctors, but as an individual, you want to learn about it. It's like the video you were showing with
Right.
the human MD doctor. He knew a lot about it because he knows what the stuff does in humans. So he researched it first, talked to our team and our vet. So they were very comfortable with it. So then he took it to a vet and explained it to the vet. The vet did their own research and then came back and said, let's inject the dog. The dog saw noticeable improvement, but our product's unique in the sense that it's a matrix that gets injected in to the joint. Now that joint starts to form the scaffolding. So the joint actually improves probably over the next 90 days. Unlike the other symptomatic treatments, they do an injection of hyaluronic acid, 30, 45 days, it's out of the system. They got to get another injection. The problem with those products and so on is the longer term ramifications of continued use. You're going to get a softening of the or weakening of the soft tissue and so on. That's why, when a human gets a steroid shot for the back or anything like that, they don't do more than twice a year. They generally try to do just once a year because each time you do it, the efficacy goes down and it increases the likelihood of soft tissue damage.
So for the audience viewers, I just put up one of the press releases that you're going to be at the exhibit at the Minnesota Veterinary and Medical Association's annual meeting in Minnesota. So anyone that's watching that's in that area, that's in this space, make sure you check them out and you get some more information and talk to some of their reps, which I think will be great. John, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else that you want to add for our audience? Anything that you want to share that you think is notable for our audience today?
So I think as a team and company, we're very fortunate in a situation where we have created a product that we're increasing the quality of life of animals and makes you really feel good. Also, we're in a position to make money. And that's why a lot of our management team that came over from other companies that are much bigger than us, they said it's not often you get to do something you love doing and make money and help people. And this is a unique situation.
Well, we know that the definition of a corporation, a real one, for those of us that have been in the business world, is to return shareholder value, and I think you're doing that in more than one way. Not to be overly optimistic, you still have to run a business, and you are making some what appears to be very good management decisions by bringing solid leadership. But if you can return good profitability, you can increase your profit margins, but you can also deliver a product that's going to make me, that may be a shareholder, but also an animal owner. You're hitting me both financially positively and, family-wise, feline relationship positively. So there's really a humanized touch here, which I think is really great to see it in companies, especially given everything that we've been through from an economic position over the past couple of years with this pandemic. So I think it's really good stuff. So I commend you, John. But once again, thank you so much for being on the program. The stock symbol for everyone is PETV. It's PetVivo Holdings. As he said, their product trademark for the osteo cushion is Spring. If you go to petvivo.com, you'll be able to find all of that. Alternatively, you can also go to Markets Hunter, where we have a full program and platform that follows this particular company. It provides all of the investment fundamentals. So it's all in one place. It links to all of their SEC filings, their newsletters, their press that comes out that we actually promote off through our social media on Twitter. So we make it easier for the consumer and for the potential investor to find information at hand. So John, thank you again for joining. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. I look forward to having more of these conversations to follow the development and growth. And we will be, for our audience, resharing a lot of these videos and links so that you can read when these reports come out, so that you can actually read these reports, because I know I will be looking into them. So John, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today.
Hunter, thanks for having me.
No problem. And we look forward once again, everyone. This is John, who's the CEO, President, Director of Petvivo Holdings. For more information, you can follow them on Twitter and on LinkedIn and social. And we retweet all of their information to keep you, the audience listener, up to date as to what's going on with Petvivo Holdings. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.